jumper Pato Award as he'll take the lead. As Colton Herta scores the win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Urrutia gets the win.
And Scott across the yard bricks. Huge wreck. Victorious at Mid-Ohio. It's hard coming through that corner.
Put tires on the ground, go round and round, round and round, round and round. Tires on the car are warranty. And what you need, the tires on the car help keep you safe. They grip the road when you hit the brakes.
Your tires matter, so count on Cooper, an American company since 1914.
The tires on the ground go round and round.
That's Franzoni, and it is Telis. Good jumper Pato Award as he'll take the lead. As Colton Herta scores the win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Urrutia gets the win.
Victorious at Mid-Ohio. It's hard coming through that corner.
Heading out on the racetrack, Renus VK as well for this qualifying session. Going to set the grid for race number 2, which will come your way tomorrow. But
big story today is we've got an Indy Lights race, the first one of the season, coming up a little bit later today at 1:05 Eastern time. Yesterday's qualifying session, what stood out for you after that 30-minute session?
Well, first and foremost, a great run for Zach Klayman to be able to get out front in Belardi Auto Racing's entry. They've been good here over the last number of years. Felix Rosenquist with a win, Zach Veach with a win. They've had the pace here in St. Petersburg before, but for me, the big one was actually Toby Sowery in the BN Racing Team Pelfrey kind of collaboration effort here this weekend. It was a late deal for him to come in. He doesn't have, I don't think, any street time at all. He ran a couple races in USF2000 2 years ago, 2 races in the Indy Pro last year at Road America, and he comes up and goes P2. That, I think, was a big one for me.
Going to be interesting to see if those drivers can back up those times this morning. This qualifying session, similar to the one we saw yesterday, 30 minutes in length for these drivers to turn as many laps as they can. Driver with the top time at the end of the session when the clock hits 0 will be the pole sitter for race number 2. Of course, we are in beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida, once again to kick off the new IndyCar and Indy Lights season. This is a 14-turn, 1.8-mile street circuit, but not just a street circuit, Rob Howden, and it's why I think this is one of the most unique racetracks we go to, because you've also got a long airport runway that they use for the front straightaway that has really made this racetrack awful unique over the years.
I love that run down into turn number 1. It's so wide. Of course, it makes for exciting starts. We see that every year when we can fan 3, 4 wide. Big turn into turn, of course, 1, 2, and 3. But remember last year, too, they did some upgrades. They had some new pavement around the track, which kind of smoothed out some of the braking zones. The little improvements they've made have made this track even more raceable, which is exciting for 2019.
Yeah, and over the years, they've also moved those walls around. You mentioned that turn 3 area, whether they move them in or out to make that corner a little bit easier for drivers or more challenging. Very technical part of the racetrack. You get from turns 4 really through turns 7 and 8 around Pioneer Park. Tough place to pass. Got to stay single file. That doesn't mean they're going to stay that way when we go racing later today. But once they roar back to life towards turn 10, another great passing opportunity with that left-hander. It's just such a unique racetrack, and unlike one that I think these Lights drivers go to anywhere all season.
And it's a street circuit. It's actually a street circuit that everybody loves to come to. It's a little bumpy, but not too bumpy. That part of the back part of the track, as you said, turns 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a rhythm section. I talked to Oliver Askew yesterday, and he really loves coming through that section. And it's one of those corners you can't make a lot of passing opportunities there, as you said, but it's also a section of the track that you have to nail, because it's such, if you miss one entry, you're going to be catching up all the way through. And that's, I think, the interesting part of this racetrack. It is so technical and so quick in different areas.
And then, of course, after they clear Al Lang Stadium, the Mahaffey Theater, the Dolly Museum, that left-hander of turn 10, it's hard on the accelerator, and then into the final couple corners of 13 and 14, where you got to set yourself up for the airport runway. Got Ryan Marine down on pit lane early this morning. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Nick. Thanks so much. Pleasure to be on the broadcast once again. Joined here by Ricardo Juncos, of course, team owner for Juncos Racing. And one of your drivers is the reigning Indy Pro 2000 champion. Keeping him in family, Rinus VeeKay raced with you last year as well. But I understand it was a bit of a rough start to the weekend with a bit of a mechanical problem for Rinus.
Yes, it was. It was a throttle sensor problem, so the sensor failed middle of the session. So we lost like about 11, 12 laps of practice. And that's a big penalty in a track like this with short time and a rookie driver, right? So every lap counts for them. So unfortunately, on qualifying also, every lap was getting better and better, but then was a checkered flag. So we okay, we fixed the problem now, so we're going to look forward. It's a long championship, long weekend, so we'll see what happens from now on.
I mentioned before, Rinus was with you last year in your Indy Pro 2000 Series team. What does it mean to be able to keep the champion in-house and to run him again now in Indy Lights?
It's good. It's not the first time happened with Spencer Pigot, with Victor Franzoni, so it's obviously great. We build a good relationship, and that's what you need. Long-time relationships always pay off, like Kyle Kaiser, for example, as well. So looking forward, he's a very talented young guy, right? So he needs a lot to learn, but he's already massive talent. So the speed is there. We have a lot of experience. The last 4 years, we won 2 championships, so we're going to try our best to give them all the tools to win another championship if we can,
All right, well, best of luck. I'm glad the mechanical situation sorted itself out, and hopefully qualifying 2 goes well.
Thank you very much.
That's Ricardo Juncos. Today first.
Further down pit road, action picking up in the BN Racing pit. here in the Indy Lights Series. BN, of course, represented by David Malukas, who will start fourth later today in the first Indy Lights race. Toby Sowery is in that bright yellow number 2 with the Pelfrey co-sponsorship, if you will. Both already back in and putting on a fresher set of scuffed tires. The scuffed tires that they used in qualifying in that second session, or the second half of the qualifying session yesterday. So we should see both of those drivers back out here momentarily. As for the conditions here, waking up at beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida, the air temperature at 68 degrees. Track temperature just 71. If it feels sticky out here, it's because it is, Nick Yeoman. The humidity level up around 83%. But you know what? Considering what's going on back in the Midwest, I think we'll take this nonetheless.
Yeah, no complaints here. It's a comfortable 83% humidity level up around there, so we'll take it here in these early morning hours in St. Petersburg, Florida. It is Zachary Clayman at the top of the charts. He just turned the best lap at a minute 6.957. Still seeing the speeds continue to rise. Really tough to judge the timing and scoring right now, but it is Clayman, Askew, Falchero, Norman, and VK, the top 5. And you heard Ryan Marine talk about that update in that interview with Ricardo Juncos. I think all of us were really surprised at the issues that Rinus VK had just finding speed. Yesterday ended up 6th in qualifying. The first practice session was nowhere to be seen. Good to hear that it wasn't necessarily the driver getting comfortable behind the car that they had an issue and that they found.
Yeah, Rinus has been here before. He ran USF2000. He ran Indy Pro 2000 last year, so he knows this racetrack. He gets a feel for it. But when you're talking about 5 opportunities to be on the track, just 5 sessions on a weekend, if you miss half of one, you get that far behind. You're always trying to claw back. Everybody's just got that little bit more ahead of you when they're trying to lay those good lap times down, especially in qualifying.
Do you think the drivers like that challenge? I mean, every driver wants seat time is so valuable, and of course on these street course events, good Lord, the schedule's so packed. We got so many different types of race cars here all weekend long. Track time is limited, and it's great for the fans. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're here at the racetrack, or you were here for Indy Pro 2000 qualifying that just wrapped up with Parker Thompson grabbing the pole. So it's a full day of action. Great for the fans, but boy, the stresses that it puts on these teams to have to nail it after just one practice session is awful tough.
I believe that's kind of part of the challenge if you're going to be a race car driver. You have to thrive in that environment that you get put in the hot seat. You have to get the job done. And I think the drivers that are up front are the guys that love that. They're like, give me the car. 5 sessions, yeah, let me get out there and get the job done. Obviously, Zachary Clayman, he's done that all his life, running in karting as well. He's been a Team Canada member overseas at international races. He's raced with that kind of pressure before. I like what he's doing right now because I think for him to come out of the box strongly here at St. Petersburg could change his tides for the remainder of the season. And
the race today, race number 1, isn't a particularly long event, just 35 laps. Race 2 on Sunday will be 40, and on a 1.8-mile street circuit, when you're turning laps right just over a minute, that thing's going to go by in a hurry. So not only an opportunity for these drivers, they've got to adapt to this racetrack quickly with one practice session, but these guys are going to be on it from the drop of the green flag later this afternoon.
Well, and recently we've gone green to checker in a couple of the races here at St. Petersburg and Indy Lights. We haven't had as many issues as we did potentially in the past. Of course, USF2000, the younger drivers, we know that there's going to be maybe a yellow here and there. But actually, the last couple of years, I believe, as I recall, the Indy Lights guys have actually run pretty cleanly. And you're right, if we go straight green to checker, it's not going to be a long race later on today.
The one exception being Aaron Telitz, who is going to join us later for the broadcast, as he kind of had a miserable St. Petersburg experience last weekend. So we're going to have him in a much more comfortable seat next to me. I know we want to see him back in a race car.
It'll be a lot less expensive, that's for sure.
You're not joking, but you're right. These Lights guys do a really good job around here. Track spacing right now during qualifying looked like it was a little bit of an issue just moments ago as Toby Sowery was kind of holding up Ryan Norman around Pioneer Park. Norman got around him heading towards turn number 10. Now Sowery makes his way through turns 2 and 3, and he's got one of those Andretti Autosport cars right on his tail. That looks like it might be Robert McGinnis around heading towards turn number 4. But it's Zachary Clayman, the driver at the top of the time charts right now at a minute 6 flat. Oliver Askew is second. Rinus VK third. Ryan Norman is fourth. That was actually Askew who got by Sowery to move him up into a little bit more clean air. There goes McGinnis. He'll now catch Sowery heading towards Pioneer Park. Just into the first third of this qualifying session. Clayman, Askew, VK, Norman, McGinnis. That's your top 5. Falchero is 6th. Lucas Cole is 7th. Dalton Kellett is 8th. And then you've got the 2 BN Racing cars with Sowery and Malukas at 9th and 10th. Haven't seen a lot of speed from them early on, Rob, but you look at those lap times, they're clearly not at full song with those lap times down at 1:12 now for Sowery and 1:20 for Malukas, who's turned just 3 laps.
Yeah, they have not even dropped the hammer yet. I'd be interested to find out what the strategy is there at this point. Maybe they could be trying to save a set of tires. I'm not sure. One thing, you talked about the fact that Indy Pro 2000 has already been on the racetrack today, so let's set kind of the stage for the track itself. As David had pointed out, we're into some pretty solid temperatures now, up into the 70s, and it is humid. But Indy Pro 2000, Parker Thompson actually was able to come on late in that session, set a new track record in the Indy Pro 2000 category. Of course, the PM18 debuting last year. We reset a record last year with Oliver Askew. So the track in good enough shape, at least, to set a record for Indy Pro. So we're going to see, some pretty good lap times here. The track feels pretty good.
Yeah, and the nice thing is the forecast is just picture perfect all weekend long. We don't expect any rain, so any rubber that's laid down at the beginning, you always see these street course races, the track just gets faster and faster and faster because, again, these are city streets. They don't have a lot of racing tire rubber laid down throughout the course of the year. So throughout the weekend, the track gets faster and faster. And the nice thing, as you pointed out, it was Cooper tire rubber that it was just on the racetrack moments ago with the Indy Pro 2000 series. Just had a report that David Malukas had an off in turn number 4, or turn number 10, actually. And now there might actually be 2 cars that went off the racetrack. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that there wasn't any contact. Now we're getting a report that turn 10 is clear. So looks like we just saw Toby Sowery and one of the Belardi Auto Racing cars, looks like Lucas Cole, that emerged from turn number 10. So good to hear that no major incidents there. But again, Rob, this is a tricky racetrack and lots of different series. Later today, the GT4 series is going to be on the racetrack, TC Americas, obviously the USF2000. They've got another race, and then certainly the NTT IndyCar series. Lots of different tire compounds, a lot of rubber laid down on this racetrack, but still, it's just going to get faster and faster.
That's one of the storylines in any weekend we go to, correct, with the different tire manufacturers here. And we know that the USF2000 drivers, who normally we call them the dew sweepers on Friday morning, they're out there at 8 o'clock in the morning. They know, as young drivers, that their entire weekend that track is going to evolve with the different rubber going down. And one of the key things, not so much for Indy Lights, because I think they run a more of a traditional line similar to IndyCar. The USF2000 drivers are much different. They have a much wider entry into the corner, and sometimes they're crossing over that different rubber. So the track is always changing throughout a race weekend. You know the grip's going to keep coming, and normally you have to talk to some of these younger drivers saying, guys, relax. This track's going to come to you. Yeah, the car may be a little loose right now. We got a little bit of oversteer. Don't worry. The track is going to come to us as the rubber starts to go down.
Oliver Askew has jumped to the top of timing and scoring with the best lap of 1:06.011. That bumps Zachary Clayman DeMello's lap at 1:06.039 down to second fast. Both those drivers have now gone to pit lane. Renus VK making his way around Pioneer Park. He's hauling the mail down that back straightaway, through the little kink, setting up for the left-hander of turn number 10. Keeps that car to the right side of the racetrack to arc it in. He's chasing after another car that is about 10, 15, 20 car lengths ahead, roaring through turns 11 and 12, and then sets up for the final couple of corners. Got to keep those right side tires, Rob, as close to that red and white curbing. That runoff of turns 13 and 14, that's make or break. I mean, it can completely throw away the current lap you're on, and certainly the next lap, as you got to get a nice run down that front straightaway.
And that's it right there. It's 2 laps. If you can't get off that corner, you've ruined the lap you're already on. Plus, you're not getting that speed you want down into turn number 1. It's probably the most crucial part of the racetrack in terms of just getting that one outright fast lap.
Halfway through qualifying, it's Askew, Clayman, VK, McGinnis, and Ryan Norman, your top 5. Let's go to pit lane and Ryan Marine.
Yeah, just an interesting sequence of events here in the Belardi Auto Racing pit lane. Julian Falchero, one of our rookies in the series, came in and was gesturing that he had some kind of a problem, and it looks like it was a problem with the radio plug coming unplugged while he was out there on the track. The team actually took some tape, and they were able to tape that radio plug to the helmet to make sure it wasn't going to come out again. So it looks like that problem has been resolved. The Frenchman now getting a new set of Sticker Cooper tires with about 14, well, just under 15 minutes left in this session. It's about time to go out there and really try and throw down some laps. They're giving him some encouragement right now, a little tap on the helmet, and Julian Falchero should be back out on track shortly.
Rob, I guess if there is one session that maybe radio communication wouldn't be too bad to lose, it might be qualifying, because as we've talked about, the strategy, and again, this is kind of new for Falchero being here in Indy Lights, but the strategy for the most part is always the same on these racetrack weekends that we're on road or street circuits. Run about 15 minutes, come in for a new set of Cooper tires, but still, driver and team, they want to be able to talk to each other and communicate.
Well, and again, one of the big things about being on track, you talk about qualifying and the fact that as the fuel load starts to go down, that's when you have to get the new tires on, and you've got to make sure that the tires come up to temperature perfectly when you're on that fast lap to make everything work. The issue there is a lot of the times you also have to make sure you're not closing up on a slower car. And sometimes the radio, your spotter or your crew chief is going to tell you, hey, there's a slower car in front of you. You're catching up a little bit. Maybe cool the tires off. Communication with the driver is still very crucial.
Things continue to change at the top of the charts as the reigning Indy Pro 2000 champion Rinus VeeKay has gone to P1. He sits on pit lane. Rob, we just saw him put on a new set of Cooper tires. And Dave, first, it looks like he may not be the only one down there on pit lane.
I would expect we'll see several changes atop the speed and timing chart here in the remaining few minutes here of qualifying down here in the Andretti Autosport area, where Oliver Askew just went back out on the race course. He has a fresh set of Cooper tires. The same story for Robert McGinnis and Ryan Norman. Also further back in the Belardi Auto Pit, we see Zachary Claman DeMello. He sits inside his car with a fresh set of Cooper tires. You might be able to hear that sound. That is Ryan Norman taking off. So things are going to be picking up here big time with these fresh set of Cooper tires in the remaining couple minutes.
It is VeeKay Askew running 1-2 right now in timing and scoring as Askew's gone back onto the racetrack. Still waiting to see Rinus VeeKay go back onto the track. Robert McGinnis is third. Zach Claman is fourth. Ryan Norman fifth. Julian Falchero, sixth fastest so far here in qualifying. Lucas Cole is seventh. Still a little surprised by the BN Racing teams as Malukas is eighth, Dalton Kellett is ninth, and Toby Sowery is 10th. He's only turned 8 laps, Rob. That's the fewest of anyone in this session. But for a guy that put it on the front row for race number 1, that's the one for me that stands out right now.
Well, let's give him some time still. We still have half this session remaining, right? 12 and a half minutes to go. They went out there. Didn't want to put those new tires on quite yet. Going to wait a little longer. Toby Sowery, P10, as you said. One thing I want to talk about with Rinus VeeKay, and it's interesting that they've made sure, because we have a shorter season. We start in March. We end, of course, with the Road to Indy right around the early to mid-September this year. There's a long offseason for these guys. One of the things they've done with Rinus is he's run a race over in Asia, a series both before his Indy Pro 2000 program and before Indy Lights. Last year he ran the MRF Challenge, did extremely well there. This year he actually ran the Asian F3 program and was able to win the championship. He comes in here still off that momentum, a lot of seat time over the offseason, where some drivers were really on the couch for pretty much September all the way through to March.
Yeah, and that's big because you hear drivers talk about it all the time. They're like, I just want to get back in a race car. I talked to Pato O'Ward yesterday, and he's like, man, I haven't been in a race car since Sonoma at the end of the season when he did that one-off for Harding Racing. So, man, these guys are just they're just chomping at the bit to get back behind the wheel of these race cars. So that was certainly really valuable for Rinus VeeKay, 18 years old from Holland. And as you mentioned, the winner of that Asian F3 Winter Series, he dominated too. He won 4 of the 9 races. So great to get a little experience under his belt, run over there. And, man, that just keeps you sharp for these drivers to roll into St. Petersburg to already be in that racing mindset. Listen, they're all professionals or soon-to-be professionals that take this very seriously, but certainly to have a little time behind the wheel of a car and not just sitting on the couch and going to the gym and training, you can't replace that. There's no set value you can put on that seat time, and especially for these drivers that are all 18 to 22 years old where, man, just experience and repetition is so key.
And it's not just the testing. You can get out and get testing done. It's wheel-to-wheel competition. That's the other side of it, right? You can just bang out laps in a test session or on the simulator or whatever it may be, but when you're actually into that heated battle again, that's what keeps you focused, keeps you sharp. And I think that may play a little bit for Rinus coming in here. He's had an opportunity to do a bunch of racing. Robert McGinnis has not. Oliver Askew has not. Zachary Claman has not. If there's any edge that VeeKay has, if he has the speed to start up front, that could be it right there.
Looks like half the field on the racetrack right now, the other half sitting on pit lane. The cars out on the racetrack, Oliver Askew, Robert McGinnis, Zach Claman, Ryan Norman, and Julian Falchero. Looks like Rinus VeeKay has just now left pit lane to go out on the racetrack. He's the only driver that's gone under a minute 6 at a minute 5.915. And Dave, again, the story's kind of been the lack of pace in this session for BN Racing. We know those cars are fast. They've shown it this weekend. It sounds like they're getting ready to go back on the racetrack.
They just now left pit road. Toby Sowery and David Malukas. Sowery in, of course, that bright yellow number 2. And Malukas in that gray and red number 79. Both those guys, man, I tell you what, that first qualifying session yesterday, Sowery starts second, Malukas fourth. Let's see if they can match that here in this qualifying session this morning.
And again, for Toby Sowery, a big weekend, because this is a one-weekend deal for him and this Team Pelfrey BN Racing operation. So it'd be great to see him put that car towards the front of the field. And for BN Racing, obviously their first kind of dipping their toes into Indy Lights. Would love to see them have 2 cars out there all season long.
I would not be surprised to see both Malukas and Sowery. Sowery preferably right now because of what he did yesterday, work his way up into the top 5. But again, this is similar to Parker Thompson, right? This is a kind of a one-off program. They put this thing together very, very late. And if it wasn't for the fact that Team Pelfrey was able to bring their hauler down, bring the car down, spares, and some staff as well, they probably wouldn't have been able to put this together. But Sowery wanted to get on the grid, and again, like Parker Thompson, getting that victory yesterday, couple of poles already, that could be what maybe allows him to find some funding moving forward to the next race. And we're not far away from the next Indy Lights race, just a couple of weeks before we're in Austin.
And if I'm not, the Pelfrey guys, are they located here in Florida? That's where their operations?
In St. Petersburg. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean that, nice, really convenient for that operation for BN Racing to have those guys down there. Of course, Sowery was at the test in Homestead earlier last week and showed some real impressive speeds to get him in that race car. He's sliding it around Pioneer Park right now. As a lot of these drivers, this part of qualifying, Rob, these guys have now gone out there only a lap or 2 on those new Cooper tires, and certainly the goal is to put as much heat in them and make sure you keep it off these very unforgiving walls here in St. Pete.
It was the discussion I had last year with Ricardo Juncos, which I just was so fascinated about, and it was about every component that has to come together in this last couple of laps when you're ready to put a fast lap down. You know the fuel's starting to go away, so the car's getting as light as it possibly can. You have to make sure that the crew put the right tire pressure in so that it's going to hit the mark that you want for the tire to have the exact grip when it comes into its sweet spot. The driver has to have open racetrack, and then they have to get their job done. So that's what it takes to get a pole lap, and that's why it's so tough in a series like this.
I'm going to knock on this wooden table that we've got set up, but are you impressed that we've gone a full practice session, a full qualifying session, and most of the second qualifying session? I know we haven't had a green flag.
I'm glad you're knocking on the table.
And a lot of cars side by side, but how impressed are you for a majority of this field that have never raced competitively in these IL-15s to be out there and have run as clean as they have?
And I think that you look at the drivers who have moved up, it's kind of the cream of the crop, is it not? Oliver Askew now goes to P1 with a 105.782. Renus VK, the model of consistency through his runner-up finish in USF2000 2 years ago, his Indy Pro 2000 championship last year. We've got just really good guys. I'm really not that surprised that they're handling it that well.
9 of the 10 Indy Lights cars out on the racetrack here in the final 6 or 7 minutes in qualifying. Dave, first, you have more on the one that has not gone back onto the racetrack.
Yeah, well, actually, he just now left pit road. We're talking about Lucas Cole, from Brazil, driving the number 5 for Bilardi Autosport. Took a lot of time, made some rear end adjustments, and just now buttoned up that rear cowling and sitting back out and away. Remember, this is a big jump, I think, for Lucas, going from USF2000 last year, jumping up 2 rungs in the road to Indy, now part, of course, of Indy Lights. And we saw a little bit of that I think, in qualifying session number 1 yesterday when Lucas Cole was a good second and almost a second and a half off pace. So he will start 10th in this afternoon's first race of the weekend. But Lucas Cole really trying to get adjusted and, more importantly, trying to get very comfortable in these Indy Lights machines.
And as we pointed out yesterday, Rob, I mean, he's a young man, Lucas Cole from Brazil, that has improved every year here on the road to Indy. And so far this morning, I mean, the lap times don't look too bad. He's 7th fastest. We'll see where that shakes out because we expect Malukas to find some more speed and Sowery to find some more speed and possibly move ahead of Lucas Cole. But still, he's right around a second off of the fast lap that Oliver Askew laid down, and that was a quick lap that cleared just about everybody by nearly 4/10. So Lucas Cole, it looks like already Friday into Saturday, looks a little bit more comfortable, a little more strong here in St. Pete.
Well, this is it's a 2-year program. He's working with Roberto Moreno. The concept is, again, he did the 3 years in USF2000, jumped straight to Indy Lights. A lot more exposure for Indy Lights in Brazil. The idea is for him to get on the racetrack, get his name out there in the series, potentially able then to come up with the funding they need to come back for next year when he'll be able to challenge. Now, the funny thing is, you look back, we haven't seen a lot of guys make the jump from USF2000 to Indy Lights, but a couple years ago it was R.C. Enerson who made it look like it was a definite possibility of scoring a race win in his rookie year.
But even then, I mean, you can just see that those guys, it takes some time. There's no doubt about it to adapt to these race cars. Oliver Askew just reset his quick lap. Got a couple cars going side by side down through turn 10 as that's Lucas Cole moving to driver's right to heed to Toby Sowery as both of those drivers get up to speed. But I mentioned Oliver Askew, another quick lap as he goes at a minute 5.543. That is 37/100ths of a second clear of Rinus VK, who is second. No matter where VK ends up, this is certainly more promising, but it's going to be interesting, Rob, as we are now under 4 minutes to go here in this qualifying session for Sunday's race number 2.
Well, I guess we can probably say that Rinus VK has caught up with those 12 laps that he lost in that one session. But what I want to look at here, because we don't really talk about it a lot in Indy Lights yet, but we're talking about a 3-year ongoing rivalry between these two drivers, Oliver Askew and Rinus VK. Oliver won the USF2000 championship in 2017. VK was second. Last year, VK wins the championship in Indy Pro 2000. Oliver finishes third. They just keep moving up.
This is the rubber match, isn't it?
The concept used to be 2 years. You come into a program, you learn, you win the next year. You know, you come in, you learn, you win. No, Oliver, Rinus, in, move straight. These guys are a couple years away. One of them could be 1 year away from the IndyCar program if they win the scholarship.
Well, and that's what I think. You know, we talk about how valuable this road to Indy is for driver development, team development, crew member development, but also from a storyline standpoint that media guys like you and I like. I mean, you think we're not going to keep an eye on how Pato O'Ward does against Colton Herta this year in their rookie seasons? I mean, you know, they were teammates last year, but they fought tooth and nail for that championship. And to see these rivalries develop, even though I know everybody's very friendly in the paddock, I think I saw the NASCAR guys fighting yesterday down on pit lane. I wouldn't mind that from time to time. A little, things get heated, but despite a lot of these guys being friendly, you know they want to beat their fellow lights competitors. And you're right. Like it or not, Oliver Askew and Rinus VK want to see them both get to IndyCar. Those two names are kind of always going to be connected because of what they've done over the past couple years and what they potentially do this year and up in IndyCar.
And that's just exactly it. We're building those rivalries. And again, those of you who are fans of this road to Indy, that's one of the cool things that you can start watching them in USF2000. You watch them grow. You watch those rivalries get fueled and get a little bit heated because, they'll high-five each other in the paddock, but you know that they're battling each other back and forth, both on the racetrack and even when they get out of the car. They're not always happy with each other when there is contact on track.
Lucas Cole went off in turn number 4. His car refired, or at least he got it spun back around. No damage to his automobile. Oliver Askew still at the top at a minute 5.5, but boy, Rob, things tightening up. He had a good 3 to 4 tenths clear of everybody, but Robert McGinnis has found some speed. He sits in third. Rinus VK reset his fast lap at a minute 5.6. He is in the second spot. Our pole sitter from race 1, Zachary Clayman's right there as well, just 2 tenths off. So here in the final 60 seconds, it is go time for these drivers to see where they can all stack up. Right now, it's Askew, VK, McGinnis, Clayman, Sowery, the top 5, Malukas is 6th, Norman 7th, Falchero 8th, Lucas Cole 9th, and Dalton Kellett in 10th.
This is the home race for Oliver Askew. He's from Jupiter, Florida. When he came here 2 years ago and made his road to Indy debut, he was thinking, I want top 5 finishes. He was fast out of the box and was able to score race wins. He's trying to do it here again in Indy Lights as well. If he could get a victory here this weekend in either of the races of the doubleheader, what a way to start it off. Of course, doing it here at home in front of the hometown fans.
A little movement for David Malukas as he just jumped up a spot into the 5th position, getting around teammate for this weekend, Toby Sowery. And then, Rob, Sowery goes out and takes that spot right back with a minute 5.969.
If we look back at Indy Pro 2000, it was the very last lap when they were able to make the move to the front. Parker Thompson setting a track record on the final lap of that 20-minute session, an extended 30-minute session here, Nick, just 15 seconds to go. And indeed, both Sowery and Malukas getting their their best laps of the session.
Yep, we're seeing drivers kind of roar out of turn 10. That was Oliver Askew, who just cleared the timing line. Timing line for qualifying, not at the start-finish line. It's right before they head into that final hairpin turn. So Askew's going to get a final lap. Another car coming out. Rinus VK is going to get another lap as he just set another quick lap.
Wow.
So how about this, Rob? Checkered flag is out, and the last two cars that look like they're going to get a chance to turn laps are the two that sit at the top. It's Askew first and VK as they make their way through turns 3 and 4 heading to Pioneer Park.
Rinus VK just dropped a fantastic lap down, too. The momentum for him is moving in the right direction. He did a 105.595, just 0.08 of a second behind Oliver Askew. Oliver not quite as quick, about 0.08 behind his best time. So you're right. The primary proponents here.
Oh, boy.
That's Ryan Norman.
Ryan Norman has had a big incident around Pioneer Park. The local yellows are out, and that is going to end this session. Nobody's going to be able to turn another quick lap, so Oliver Askew is going to be your pole sitter. But the concern, Rob, we can see Ryan Norman moving around in that cockpit. Heavy, heavy damage to the left front suspension of that car. The bonnet over the dampers and springs has been ripped off. Front wing gone on that car. For Ryan Norman, the winner a year ago at Gateway Motorsports Park, a driver we expected to compete for this championship, has tore up that left front. The AMR IndyCar safety team is there as Ryan Norman has popped the steering wheel off of that Mazda for Andretti Autosport, and he will climb out. Appears to be okay. Man, we talked about that Pioneer Park area, Rob. You got to hustle that car around. You've got some really tight 90-degree left-hand turns, or right-hand turns, I should say. And it looks like one of those walls jumped out and bit Ryan Norman. He's going to end this session 7th fastest, but more importantly, that crew going to have to repair that damaged race car.
Yeah, we're just 4 hours away from the start of the Indy Lights, the first race of the doubleheader. And look at Ryan Norman was P7 there, and he knows, hey, he was probably on the flyer. The first couple of corners, maybe the first half of that session, he's looking down at the dash. It's telling him he's potentially on a better lap. He's pushing hard. And you know, going through that Pioneer Park, that double right-hander coming through there, that is a tough part of the racetrack. We're going to get a replay here?
Looks like we might. And, boy, Rob, he carried a lot of speed through that corner and didn't look like he was going slow enough to there was a car, I don't know, a couple car lengths behind. Was that Zach Clayman who had to really turn that car sideways to avoid missing Norman? I mean, he went flying into that corner, Rob. I don't want to assume that maybe something broke on that car, but he couldn't get it slowed down, and that was a big, big hit to the outside wall.
Initially, my thought would have been he was trying to get the car to rotate potentially, and it kind of snapped back on him and came in. But now it looks to me like he just totally missed the apex of the corner, just blew the entry, because that thing went straight by the apex and right into the wall.
Yeah, really shallow entry into that corner, and with as much speed as he was carrying, just didn't stand a chance of making that corner. Again, that does bring the red flag and checkered flag out for the qualifying session. Bad news for Andretti Autosport, they got a car to repair. Good news for that team is they have won the pole as Oliver Askew, the 22-year-old from nearby Jupiter, Florida, about 3 hours away from St. Petersburg, has scored his first career pole in the Indy Lights Series presented by Cooper Tires. He will share the front row with Rinus VK, who is standing by with Ryan Marine.
That's right, second place in qualifying here for race 2. I'm sure yesterday was frustrating dealing with that throttle sensor issue. So how gratifying was it to really be able to show the speed that this car was capable of here today?
Yeah, it's super nice to show the speed, and because of the red flags on traffic, we didn't show everything yet, but no, we're there, the speed is there, and I'm just super happy with the team and how we recovered from yesterday. And even qualifying 1 is my best qualifying 1 ever here, and I've been on the podium all the time, so I think it will be a good day.
Yeah, so what you're telling me is starting 6th doesn't have you concerned at all.
No, it's a long race, and tire management will be a big factor, and I think just having fun and and doing my best will be the best thing.
Good luck at race 1 this afternoon, and congratulations, second place in qualifying for race 2.
Thank you.
Today first.
Oliver Askew, we've seen him win poles in USF2000, Pro 2000. Now you got one in Indy Lights. You accepted the congratulations. I mean, that's not, when Michael Andretti comes over and gives you a high five, that's not bad, right?
It's pretty special, to be honest. Yeah, it's unreal. I after the first stint, I knew we had a good shot at it. The car was really, really good. We made good changes from yesterday, and yeah, I can't thank the guys enough, Index Invest, Delrect, and everybody at Andretti. Yeah, my engineer, Doug, put a hell of a car together.
Of course, you're from Florida, Jupiter, Florida, not too far away. This you're kind of a hometown. This is your home race, really, right?
Yeah, and I have a bunch of people coming out, some partners, friends, and family, so I'm looking forward to putting on a good show for them and everybody who came out.
How many do you have coming over here?
I think about over 20. Yeah.
You have to buy them tickets, do you?
I went over my allotment, way over. Yeah.
Obviously, you start third here later this afternoon. What's in the car? Can you win here today and maybe pull off a sweep tomorrow?
You never know what's going to happen here in Turn 1 in St. Pete, so I'm looking for a good clean race and a good start from P3, and I know we have good race pace as well, so we can run the same time over and over again.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Oliver Askew will start third this afternoon, but starts first tomorrow.
Yep, congratulations, the pilot of the Index Invest Mazda for Andretti Autosport as Oliver Askew grabs the pole. Here's how they finished in qualifying for race number 2. It'll be Askew and Renus VK on the front row, Robert McGinnis and Zachary Clayman in row number 2. Row 3 will be the BN Racing teammates, Toby Sowery and David Malukas. In row 4, Ryan Norman and Julian Falchero. And in the final row, Lucas Cole and Dalton Kellett. Rob, final thoughts. I think the coolest thing about how things have shaken out so far today, first of all, happy to see Ryan Norman okay and out of that car after that big hit. Coolest thing is race 1 today, it's going to be Clayman and Sowery on the front row. Row 1 tomorrow, Askew and VK. How about 4 different drivers at the front of the field? That's exactly what you're looking for from a competitive standpoint in the Indy Light Series presented by Cooper Tires.
Yeah, I think we've got really good equality and balance across all the teams this year. We got some great drivers who have come in. The one thing I'm looking at, and watching and listening to Oliver Askew, it's been, over the years, we've used Spencer Piggott as kind of our poster boy of what you can do. He had a scholarship that got him into USF2000. He worked his way all the way through, winning scholarships to continue to move forward, and eventually now, of course, a star in the NTT IndyCar Series. I just look and listen to Oliver Askew and say, man, he could be the next one. He won that scholarship to get into USF2000, won the championship, now finds himself through Indy Pro 2000 to Indy Lights. He's on the pole in the first weekend, his debut here in this Indy Lights program. He may become that next poster boy that we're able to use.
All right, here's what's on tap today. IndyCar practice coming up at 10:25 Eastern Time. Mark Janes and Anders Krohn will guide you through that race or that practice session. Indy Lights race number 1 will come your way at 1:05 Eastern. I'm going to be joined by Aaron Telitz in the booth for that. Really looking forward to that. And then, of course, NTT P1 qualifying at 2:30 Eastern. Of course, lots of ways you can listen to IndyCar Radio. The TuneIn app, IndyCarRadio.com. You can go to the IndyCar Race Control page on the main website and find it there, as well as on the IndyCar app. And then later today for both the Lights race and IndyCar qualifying on SiriusXM. A great job by Ryan Marine and Dave First down on pit lane. Want to thank Rick Evans running the show from the TV compound. For Rob Howden, I'm Nick Yeoman. Congratulations to Oliver Askew, the pole sitter in Indy Lights for race number 2.
And congratulations to Oliver.